Imagine Taylor Swift not on a stadium stage, but singing in the courtyard of a medieval castle. Instead of guitars and neon lights, there are lutes, harps, and torches flickering in the night. Her songs wouldn't stream on Spotify, they would be carried by minstrels, spreading like legend across kingdoms. In a world ruled by kings, queens, and the church, could her voice break through the silence forced on women? Would her ballads be hymns in cathedrals, love songs whispered in royal courts, or battle chants sung by knights? And if her fame grew powerful enough, would she end as a wandering bard or as the wife of a king? The 10th century was an age without amplifiers, speakers, or neon stages. Music lived only through the human voice, the strings of a lute, or the slow, haunting notes of a pipe organ in a cathedral. Bards and minstrels carried stories across villages, singing of war, love, and tragedy. In this world, Taylor Swift would not be an international pop star, she would be a wandering bard or perhaps a court musician. Her songs would change drastically in form, but not in spirit. Love Story would be reimagined as a medieval ballad sung with harp accompaniment echoing through stone halls. Shake It Off might become a harvest dance tune performed at festivals when peasants gathered to celebrate survival through another winter. All Too Well would transform into an epic poem recited by firelight in a mead hall, breaking hearts as it told of love lost and betrayal remembered. What would surprise people most is not the form of her music, but its themes. In a time when most songs glorify kings, wars, and saints, her voice would be unique. She would sing of heartbreak, betrayal, resilience, and personal emotion. These themes could spread faster than sermons. Villagers would memorize her lyrics, passing them along like folklore, turning her into something more than a singer, a legend. Her presence would challenge the authority of the church. In the 10th century, much of music was sacred, performed by choirs or monks. A woman singing passionately about her own feelings could be seen as rebellious, even heretical. Yet, it would also be impossible to silence her if people loved her songs. For the first time in history, ordinary people might gather not just for prayer or battle, but to hear the songs of a woman who spoke their own hidden emotions. In this sense, Taylor Swift could spark a quiet revolution through melody. But fame in the 10th century was never just about art, it was about power. If Taylor's songs spread across kingdoms, kings and nobles would take notice. One possibility is that she would be summoned to perform in royal courts. A king in England, a duke in France, or even an emperor in the Holy Roman Empire could command her presence. There, her songs might be used as tools of diplomacy, symbols of prestige. Imagine a Viking chieftain boasting not only of his victories, but of having Taylor Swift sing at his hall. Yet, with fame comes danger. The church, powerful and suspicious of anything that shifted people's loyalty away from God, could accuse her of witchcraft or heresy. A woman whose words carried more weight than priests would be seen as a threat. Taylor might face trials, censorship, or worse. However, there is another path. If she gained the favor of a noble family, she could rise higher than any bard. She might marry into power. In medieval society, marriages were strategic, alliances between families and kingdoms. If her fame made her valuable, she could be offered as a bride to a prince or even a king. Her songs might then transform into political anthems written not just for love but for legacy. Imagine this, Queen of England, known not only for her beauty but for the way her ballads united kingdoms and inspired loyalty. In such a scenario, she wouldn't just change music, she would change history itself. To understand the true impact, we must imagine how society would react. The 10th century was not kind to women, yet her voice would be undeniable. Her songs might become rallying cries for women who felt powerless. Lyrics about heartbreak and empowerment resonating with peasant wives, noble ladies, even nuns. Swifties of the 10th century whispering lyrics while weaving cloth, during harvest, etching verses into manuscripts. Her songs becoming a shadow network of female expression under patriarchy. If she wed a powerful lord, her influence would multiply. As queen or duchess, she could shape policies, peace, or rebellion. A ballad condemning war, dissuading nobles, a song celebrating unity, forging alliances. She would not just be a singer, she would be a political force disguised as a poet. If Taylor lived in the 10th century, her influence wouldn't stop in one region. Minstrels carried stories across Europe. Viking raiders traveled from Scandinavia to England, France, even Byzantium. Traders along the Silk Road connected east and west. It is entirely possible that her ballads would spread far beyond her home kingdom. Imagine a Byzantine emperor commissioning her to compose hymns, or Viking skalds retelling her heartbreak songs as sagas of lost warriors. Her music could become woven into the fabric of multiple cultures, taking on new forms with each retelling. In this sense, she might accelerate the Renaissance by centuries. Her personal, emotional storytelling could inspire poets, playwrights, and musicians long before Shakespeare. Her emphasis on individual emotion could challenge the dominance of collective religious narratives, reshaping art. The long-term effect: a world where women's voices entered history much earlier. A world where popular music wasn't born in the 20th century, but in the medieval age. History is full of names that survived because their voices, their poems, or their songs endured the centuries. Homer's Iliad, the Viking sagas, the chants of Hildegard of Bingen, each a fragment of a human voice echoing through time. If Taylor Swift had lived in the 10th century, her fate would be uncertain. Perhaps she would be remembered as a saintly singer in the Byzantine Empire, her ballads preserved in golden manuscripts. Perhaps her words would thunder in Viking halls, sung as war chants and love sagas. Or perhaps her songs would travel the Silk Road, woven into the poetry of Persia and the music of China, transforming into something unrecognizable but eternal. And if she married a king, her ballads could have been immortalized in chronicles of dynasties, shaping not just culture but power itself. In that world, the name Taylor Swift might appear in history books alongside queens and emperors, not as a pop star, but as a legendary figure who changed both art and politics. But even in the darkest timeline, if her voice had been silenced by the church or buried in forgotten manuscripts, one truth remains: her words would not die. Somewhere, centuries later, a scholar would stumble upon faded parchment, whispering lyrics that feel strangely modern, strangely alive. And they would wonder, who was this woman who sang of love, loss, and resilience long before her time? So tonight, as you listen and imagine, ask yourself, if Taylor Swift had lived in the 10th century, would the world we know today, our art, our history, even our dreams, be the same? Or would the Renaissance, feminism, and popular music all have begun 1,000 years earlier, sparked by one woman with a voice too powerful to be forgotten? The question lingers, the story ends, but the song never really stops. And that was our journey into a world where Taylor Swift lived not in our time, but in the 10th century. Do you think her voice would have changed history or been lost to time? Share your thoughts in the comments. Which version of medieval Taylor do you imagine? The bard, the queen, or the legend whispered on the Silk Road? If you enjoyed this story, give it a like. And don't forget to subscribe for more What If Bedtime stories, where history, imagination, and the impossible collide. Good night, and may your dreams be filled with music that never fades.